but it was worth mentioning when I talked about adrenochrome. And I talked about that in the organ harvesting, which I didn't go into. And there's over 2 million in that one, and another 2 million in another one. So it's on a world level.
This is Jim Caviezel. If you don't know who he is, he played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ, and he is a QAnoner through and through. It doesn't get more QAnon-y than this guy. It's nuts. Well, as it turns out, he was the star of a movie called The Sound of Freedom a while back. If you're unfamiliar with QAnon, I will fill in the gaps to try to bridge that gap and help you understand like what's happening, because there's some pretty deep lore that we're going to be talking about tonight. So The Sound of Freedom is a movie that was released on July 4th, and it was supposedly based on a true story. Well, the story that it was supposedly based on is about a guy named Tim Ballard. Now, Tim Ballard, according to him, was part of the CIA or maybe Homeland Security or something, and he found out that this boy had been kidnapped in this human trafficking ring, so he quit his job and started a foundation to find these victims of human trafficking, basically. Honorable cause, by all accounts. I think that's honorable, right? Except Tim Ballard is insane. He is also, as far as I can tell, in my opinion, a QAnoner. He believes in a bunch of the fundamental beliefs and doctrines of the QAnon movement. Jim Caviezel played Tim Ballard in this movie, The Sound of Freedom. The movie was actually produced, I believe, in 2018, and it was shelved for a while, and then it finally came out recently. QAnon was not big at the time. It was actually created in 2017, QAnon was, and then it started to catch on in 2018 or 2019. Jim Caviezel, in the intervening years, since he filmed that movie, fell down the QAnon rabbit hole all the way. He hit bottom. And as it turns out, so did Tim Ballard, the guy the movie was based off of. So I wanted to talk about both of them, because as it turns out, Tim Ballard went on the Jordan Peterson, podcast or whatever it is, July 3rd, 2023. So it was the day before The Sound of Freedom released. Now, the reason I'm talking about The Sound of Freedom in the first place sounds like a movie that had a limited release, like who even watched it? Well, turns out it's extremely popular. It's made a ton of money. So the day before the movie released, Peterson has a conversation with Tim Ballard, and he says this. Check it out.
Your group, and this is Operation Underground Railroad, and tell me if I get anything wrong here, says it devours conspiracy theories, though founder Tom Ballard was...
Does he mean disavows? Or, I don't know that word.
Tom Ballard was criticized for refusing to condemn the QAnon conspiracy theory. I have no idea what the hell that means. Do you?
Really? You don't know what QAnon is? Are you kidding me? Jordan Peterson?
Know what that's referring to?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Tim Ballard right here.
That's a lie on Wikipedia. We have absolutely in our FAQs for years have.
Oh, it's a lie. Okay.
For years have condemned the majority of what we see.
Oh, the majority of what you see, huh? Okay, interesting. Tell me more.
With conspiracy theories.
Are you going to denounce QAnon or not? He's not even denouncing QAnon. It was such an easy, layup. He could have just, ball was thrown at you, and you could have knocked it right out of the park. And what'd you choose to do? Dance around it. Really? QAnon is complete bullshit. That's all you had to say. QAnon's ridiculous. It's nonsense. And boom. Just like that, you're done. And you can truly say that was a lie on Wikipedia. He's not proving it to be a lie so far, is he? Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video.
On Wikipedia, we have absolutely in our FAQs for years have condemned the majority of what we see with conspiracy theories. So they like to attribute me to the QAnon movement. There may be some truths in there, but there's so...
Are you kidding me? They like to attribute me to the QAnon movement. There may be some truths in there. Is there really any wonder why people think you're a QAnoner? I mean, that's maybe he just didn't want to denounce a fan base, right? Let's just see what else he has to say. Okay, maybe he doesn't actually hold any of these beliefs. He just didn't want to, draw a hard political line.
Some truths in there, but there's so many falsehoods on top of that. So our FAQs refute that immediately because it discredits the movement. In fact, I would go so far as to consider that maybe certain people who don't want this known are responsible for some of the conspiracy theories in order to discredit the movement.
Wow. Okay, that was complicated, but I think what he's saying is the media is out to get him, and they created QAnon as a method of slandering people. The deep state, if you will. Would you call it the deep state, maybe? The term QAnon uses for it? This dude's totally a QAnoner, right?
And they go too far. They go too far in their assessment of things. But yeah, we absolutely have disavowed what's generally coming out of QAnon.
That's not what you were asked, Tim. You were asked if you disavow QAnon. Do you disavow QAnon?
What's generally coming out of QAnon.
Yeah, well, it says, it's very vague on Wikipedia. It says to condemn the QAnon conspiracy theory. Well, I know perfectly well that there are more than one conspiracy theories, let's say, on QAnon, so I'm not even exactly sure what it's referring to.
I can't imagine Jordan Peterson doesn't know this. There are different denominations of QAnon, okay? And they largely center around a variety of different public figures that interpret the writings of Q. QAnon is based on posts from this guy that calls himself Q Clearance Patriot, and he's written so many posts it's ridiculous. And they're all nonsense. It's all nonsensical garbage from beginning to end. There are some foundational beliefs in the QAnon movement that you must accept to be a QAnoner. And other denominations that are centered around these other influencers build upon that. For example, Michael Brian Protzman runs the Negative 48 QAnon movement. That one accepts all the QAnon conspiracy theories that are, baseline. And also, it believes that JFK Jr. is going to return on the grassy knoll where his dad died and run as Donald Trump's vice president or something. This is a bunch of QAnoners that showed up to the grassy knoll where JFK was shot. They showed up there waiting for JFK Jr., his son, who died in a plane crash in 1994, to magically appear and run as Trump's vice president. Really. This is Negative 48. Not every QAnoner believes this. Ramana Didulo is another QAnon denomination out there. She claims that she was instated as the Queen of Canada by the same people who instated Trump to be the president or whatever, and that the imposters, that whatever. She's an Arcturian, a lizard person secretly. She's a good lizard person. All the other lizard people are bad that control the world.
Hello, Canada. I'm Romana Didolo. I'm the founder and leader of Canada First. As of February this year, 2021, I am the head of state and commander-in-chief of Canada, the Republic.
There are different denominations out there, but there is a baseline set of beliefs that QAnon accepts. That's what's being referred to when news organizations say he does not denounce the QAnon conspiracy theory. The baseline stuff. There's a cabal of people out there that are sucking kids dry of their blood and getting some kind of power from it, or whatever else, called adrenochrome, and all this other nonsense that surrounds it. The deep state is out to get everybody, and Donald Trump is trying to save us, and so on and so forth.
What is there a particular conspiracy theory that you were criticized for refusing to condemn? Do you have any more specific details about that?
I mean, I'm not sure what exactly they're talking about. They might be.
Oh, he knows what they're talking about.
Referring to the fact that there's something called adrenochrome where they.
Okay, before we actually listen to his explanation, let me just tell you what adrenochrome is. When your body releases adrenaline, it courses through your veins for a while until oxygen molecules from your hemoglobin start attaching to the adrenaline molecules. And when that happens, when oxygen latches itself to adrenaline molecules, it turns into adrenochrome. So it's basically like spent adrenaline. It's like if you're smoking weed, for example, adrenaline would be the weed and the ashes are the adrenochrome because there's no more product there that's usable by your body. You can actually get your hands on it. It's really not that hard to get. It's accessible by scientists for a variety of reasons. They've studied it throughout the years. And if you eat adrenochrome, it comes in powder form usually. If you eat it, it just gives you a mild headache, according to most of the people that have, partaken in it or whatever. It doesn't do anything for anybody. But it was mentioned in the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Fantastic movie, by the way, with Johnny Depp. And it was portrayed as like this powerful drug or whatever. And now QAnon runs with it and claims that, people are drinking adrenochrome, these elites, straight from the tap. They're scaring kids to get their adrenaline pumping, and then they're poking them with a needle or they're cutting them or something. I don't even know, and they're drinking their blood. It's all made up completely. So go on. What about adrenochrome, Tim? Tell me about adrenochrome.
There's something called adrenochrome where they're taking children's blood and devouring it and so forth.
I don't know who they is exactly. Who is they? Are they in the room with us right now, Tim? It's the Jews, isn't it? It's always the Jews.
And I've explained my experience with that, and I just did in West Africa and other places. We've seen this in several parts of the continent of Africa, and it's very real. It's very real. This witch doctory. They take these children. They take their organs. They take their blood. They drink it.
Okay, I know there's some weird that happens over there, but I'm sorry, man. You have zero credibility with me. You've got to give me some proof of something. I will take anything. I do not believe a word out of this guy's mouth by default. If he said the sky was blue, I'd want to verify. And second, witch doctors, assuming these witch doctors are drinking blood or whatever, I mean, I don't know why I would even take this as an assumption, but let's just take it for a second. What makes him think they're doing this for the sake of getting adrenochrome? Adrenochrome is fake, okay? It's not real. It's not a drug that people use. Does he think that people really are trying to extract adrenochrome from kids? This is just an insane joke. And what makes this worse is this guy is an evangelical extremist nutcase on top of all of it. Oh boy, let me tell you about this guy. You know what? I'll tell you in a second. Finish this little adrenochrome segment.
They take the genitalia of children and hang it over the rooftop of their businesses, thinking that the dark gods will bless them. These are...
Yeah, I don't even know if that's real. That sounds completely made up. Maybe. I don't know.
Real things. And so I might say something like that, and then they connect it to something that a QAnon person says about, a celebrity who must be doing this too, but there's no evidence to back that. And they make...
Oh, but there's evidence to back the idea that these other people are doing it. These other people are drinking adrenochrome. It's just not the celebrity that these QAnoners claim is drinking. Give me a break, man.
They make a false connection there. And so that's the only example I can think of.
That's the only example he can think of why he was attacked by these vicious reporters. Oh, it's terrible. Like I said, the dude is a far-right evangelical extremist. And I know, tall claim. Who would believe something like that without evidence, right? Well, good news for you. I have the evidence. Let me back that up. I just wrote a check with my mouth. Let me cash that bad boy. Vice News article. Operation Underground Railroad, which is the organization he founded, child rescue missions were based on psychic intelligence. Psychic intelligence. It was written by Anna Merlan, or Merlan, I think maybe. Anna Merlan. Written September 20th, 2023. It was a tense day in February 2016 for Tim Ballard and operatives working for Operation Underground Railroad. OUR is what it's called. The anti-human trafficking group he founded. They were on what would prove to be a bumbling and ineffective mission to save a trafficked child Ballard believed was being held in a village on the border of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. This wasn't just any mission, however. The child they were searching for was Gardy Marty, a missing Haitian boy whose abduction Ballard has portrayed as the case that led us to found the organization, OUR. Joining him and his team of elite operatives was Janet Russin, a psychic medium from Utah whose supposed visions were guiding the mission. According to documents from a now closed criminal investigation into Ballard and OUR obtained by Vice News through a public records request, video shot by a crew hired by OUR captured Russin, the psychic, talking with Gardy's father, Guesno Marty, I think is how it's pronounced. In the conversation, Russin seemed to credit herself with locating Gardy. She assured him that his son was nearby and that without her visions, he never would have been found. Tim Ballard hired a psychic to find his victims, or his survivors. Would you be surprised to find that they never found the kid? The psychic was full of it. She had no idea what was happening. They show up and there's nobody there. It was all nonsense. And despite the fact that somebody along the chain must have known she was full of it, right? If not her, then somebody. Despite that fact, everybody all the way along the chain allowed this to happen and allowed her to call the father of the missing kid and say, "We found him. We're going to get him." Imagine that for a second with me. I remember having my kid, Kylie, my baby. She was maybe a year old. I had a rocking chair, and she had just started sleeping through the night, so maybe 6 months old. It's just me and her. And every night I held her in my arms and rocked her to sleep back and forth in this rocking chair every single night while I sat there and read a book on my iPhone or whatever. Rocked her to sleep for years. And to lose your child that you had that experience with, to not know where they are, to think that maybe the worst had happened and they were being trafficked. Imagine getting the phone call that your kid has been located and is safe, and you're on your way to pick him up right now. And it turns out the person who called you was a psychic. She had no clue what was happening. And Tim Ballard allowed that to happen every step of the way. Does it get more depraved than that? I don't know. So if you notice, the guy was dodgy and said there are a lot of QAnon conspiracies. We don't accept the majority of them, but some of them are real, blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of QAnoners out there that repeat the same line that Tim Ballard did. This is Johnny Enlow. He is a QAnon pastor, and he's said the same thing, basically. Listen to this. This one is from late September 2022.
Conspiracies exist. Conspiracies have been proven. All who have followed Q have been considered and called conspiracy theorists. And every single one of them has been proven already.
No, literally none of them. You know, the first conspiracy theory that Q revealed, the thing that got Q famous, was for claiming that Hillary Clinton was about to be arrested. She was trying to flee the country, and she was on her way out, but they were going to catch her at the blah, blah, blah. It's going to happen in 2 days or something like that. I don't even remember exactly what the post said. Obviously never came true. Never happened. And what do they say? 4 or 5 years later, we've got these QAnon pastors saying things like they've all been proven. What?
Now, there's some in the community go off into other depths of it, but you
That's the denomination thing I'm talking about.
have to understand the primary elements that were brought out 5 years ago, that there is a group of world leaders who are a cult, and they're a satanic cult, and they're pedophiles, and they traffic children, they traffic people, they steal blood, they do sacrifices. That is not a conspiracy theory. If
Yes, it is.
you still think it is, you are blind. Get your head out of the sand.
I guess I'm blind, huh? Wow. So anyways, everything that this guy listed just now, Johnny Enlow, everything he listed was either not denounced or affirmed by Tim Ballard. So Operation Underground Railroad is run by a complete nutcase. In all fairness, I think he got like 7 accusations of impropriety with some of the female staff. I don't remember exactly what was happening with it, so don't quote me on that. And he stepped down as the leader recently. So take that for what you will. Jim Caviezel, the guy that played Tim Ballard in this movie about this whole organization, is a QAnoner to the core as well. Like, hardcore. Like, he's in it is about as deep as you get. Check this out. This is a clip from late June 2023.
But it was worth mentioning when I talked about adrenochrome. And I talked about that in the organ harvesting, which I didn't go into. And there's over 2 million in that one, and another 2 million in another one. So it's on a world level.
Are you talking about something on par or greater than kind of the Nuremberg trials, or?
It's greater than all of that because it's killing every child, every baby from.
So the Nuremberg trials, famously the trials that got Nazis convicted of war crimes and then sentenced to whatever, execution or whatever it happened to be. This is bigger than the Nuremberg trials, apparently. Okay, go on. You got my attention.
From every religion.
Like people, everybody's going to want retribution.
From all of the countries in the world.
Yeah.
Our children, the most innocent. And why do they do this? Because it is the greatest offense to God. These children are the most innocent and most like God.
Mm-hmm.
And to the evil one, he loves this because it wounds God greatly.
So I guess people just like to hurt God. That's why they're abducting kids and drinking their blood, sticking a straw in their arm like a Capri Sun or something. Bizarre, dude. God, this guy is wild. Jim Caviezel. So he was on the same Jordan Peterson interview with Tim Ballard. They did this interview together, right? Jordan Peterson, Tim Ballard, Jim Caviezel. I wanted to listen to just a minute or two of Jim Caviezel's part in this interview because it gets weird too. July 3rd, 2023, talking to Jordan Peterson.
Schindler's List was a very powerful weapon, but it came 50 years too late.
He loves invoking the Holocaust and Jews and their mistreatment, doesn't he? He loves comparing the supposed human trafficking that's happening right now to what happened in Nazi Germany. For the record, the human trafficking claims are what made QAnon famous and mainstream in the first place. It started on this little website called 4chan that's similar to Reddit, operates similarly, but it's 100% anonymous, and it's full of extremists and deeply disturbing stuff. Eventually moved to 8chan, which has absolutely no reason to exist. I mean, think of the worst pictures, most disturbing and disgusting pictures and videos and ideas and everything that you can imagine. That's what you find on 8chan. And a little bit on 4chan also. That's where QAnon started originally. Eventually, it started spreading heavily through the Save the Children hashtag. QAnoners claimed 400,000 children went missing every year in the United States. 400,000 children a year. That's a completely fabricated number. I think that there were, I don't remember, it was based on some grain of truth. I don't remember what it was. I think it was, there were 400,000 missing persons reports in the United States one year, and they extrapolate that over the course of 10 years, and now you got, 4 million people sold into slavery. Children, of course, got to be children. When you look a little bit closer at the number, you find that many of those missing persons were recovered. It was like, a mom goes to a mall with a kid, and she's at Claire's looking at the little necklaces and earrings, and he wanders off to the ice cream shop, and she starts crying and screaming, "Oh my God, where'd my kid go?" Runs up to the nearest police officer, says, "I've lost my kid," and they look around the mall, they lock it down, and there they find little Johnny digging into the chocolate ice cream at the ice cream shop, Those events were included in the missing persons reports. Also, they found that I think 80% of the missing persons reports were runaway teens. Kids that were mistreated, abused, maybe they were gay, maybe they were whatever. Not Christian, didn't follow their family's beliefs for one reason or another, and they left. And they had a missing persons report filed on them, and it just never came to anything because they didn't want to be found. Or sometimes they were found, and they just didn't want to go back. So that's where they get the 400,000 a year figure. It's completely unrealistic. And later on, you hear Jim Caviezel and QAnoners in general do this. They'll quote a massive, crazy figure. I think 150 million or something like that, when it's nowhere near that. It's about 27 million people believed to be in human trafficking. That's not just children. That includes prostitution and a variety of other areas of human trafficking. But he believes that it's 150 million children that are being trafficked right now. Insane.
Years too late. This film is now. This is exposing it now during that time.
Dude, he is such an odd person.
And I believe that is probably why it's easier to get an actor to do a movie 50 years later. There's no controversy. It's over. But the individuals, imagine if Rwanda, if that story had been made, that movie had been made during that time, or that they could see it. You have to look at these situations and understand that good people sit back and do nothing and allow this evil to occur. There's got to be people that stand up.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. I agree. Except this whole human trafficking bit where kids are being drained of their blood by big evil elites or whatever, it's a figment of your imagination. It doesn't work that way at all. As a matter of fact, people that are actually involved in this type of work, human trafficking, trying to stop human trafficking, organizations that work in this field have specifically asked QAnoners to stop. They are jamming this whole thing up and making it more difficult to find real cases of this.
In the time that it occurs. And that's what drew me to the whole story in the first place.
These people need help, dude. This is absolutely insane. What's even more insane is this movie is taking off right now. It's like getting really big. It was supposed to be like a small movie that aired in select theaters on certain days, and it turned into something really big. But when it released, within a week of it releasing, so it came out July 4th, this is July 12th. This is a guy on InfoWars, Alex Jones's network. Listen to what he had to say about what was happening.
Just when you thought the deviant left couldn't possibly sink any lower.
Deviant left. It was me. My fault. What's happening?
There are now widespread reports of movie theaters purposely sabotaging the sound of freedom.
Why would movie theaters sabotage their own income source? They could have just chosen not to air it. It's up to each individual movie theater which movie they play. Like, is there any logic in there at all? Is there anything knocking around behind those eyes?
Here's what's going on. The internet is being flooded right now with testimonies from people who are having a bad movie experience.
Read QAnon nutter butters who are obsessed with the idea of being persecuted
while trying to watch the anti-child trafficking thriller Sound of Freedom. All kinds of interruptions, distractions, and just plain bizarre occurrences in movie theaters all over the country.
Movie theaters have problems. It says Sound of Freedom Theater was evacuated 30 minutes after something. I can't even read that. After hearing 3 loud booms. Okay, things happen. Air conditioners break from time to time. There are weird noises. There are errors and glitches and things. These people are obsessed with reading conspiracies into things that don't even have conspiracies. Get help, guys. For real. You guys have gone off the deep end and kept on going. Okay? Pull it together and get help. This is nuts. Let me know what you think about it in the comments.